hours of pain.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Presenting Our Presence. This is our monthly vodcast podcast here at the University of Alberta, where we get to know some of the amazing Indigenous folks that really enliven this place and contribute so much to the student experience, to our community experience. And today we're really happy to have someone who has been working on the student side. My name is Michelle Durocher. I'm from the Fishing Lake Métis settlement. And here at the university, I work in the president's office as the executive operations coordinator. And I would love to throw it over to my colleague, Florence, to introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this session of Presenting Our Presence. My name is Florence Glanfield. I am honored to be the co-host, or one of the co-hosts of this podcast, and we are so looking forward to the conversation today with our colleague, Kaylem. Kaylem, we invite you to introduce yourself in whatever way feels best for you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Florence and Michelle. What a great introduction. My name is Kaylem Mockford, and I work here at the U of A as the Kisei Yotin at First People's House. My Cree name, Kisei Yotin, here at First People's House means calm wind, and I work with the students in the mental health and wellness capacity here at First People's House. And I am from Black Lake First Nation up north in Saskatchewan. And I've spent most of my life here in Edmonton, however, and I'm also a U of A alumni. So really amazing to have this opportunity with the two of you today, and very happy to be here.
Thank you, Kaylem. I love that your title name means calm wind, and you work with students and help with their mental health. Like that was right on the nose there. And I think you mentioned before this name was given to you by an elder when you were getting the office set up. Is that true?
Yeah, so Shayna Dion, our leader, she does amazing work with the elders in our space, Francis and Elsie, and they really put a lot of love and care into selecting our names here at First People's House. And when they thought of my position and working with the students, they chose this name, and there's a lot of really beautiful thought and reasons that they put into this specific name, and I love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think it's so cool. And you all have names like that. I believe in that space. That's so wonderful. So we did have a little bit of a pre-chat before we were able to get on to record our podcast today. And from what I understand from our last meeting, our last visit, is that you are very involved in sports. And I would love to hear more about this, because this is, I believe, Florence, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time we'll be talking about Indigenous people in sports and in that kind of space. Is that correct? Yeah. So please, Kaylem, I'd love to hear more about your experience in sports and what kind of stuff you're into now.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. That's so exciting to be the first person to talk on this topic here. Yeah, I've always had I guess, really, I've been so drawn to sports my whole life. From the moment I was young, I was always the kid with lots of energy, I guess, running around and wanting to put that energy into something positive. Historically, I guess I remember my mom really wanted me to be a dancer. A lot of, firstborn daughters, their mom wants them to be a dancer. And we did try with that. However, I didn't really love everything that came with the dance world, and I loved running and being physical and anything kind of team sports related. So really, like I was lucky enough to start sports at a very young age. Started playing soccer when I was around 4, and um, kept going from there. Eventually, started playing club soccer, and soccer kind of created that opportunity for me to excel in other sports. You get to junior high, and I was lucky enough to have people say, "Why don't you try basketball, volleyball, wrestling, rugby, all these different things?" And I was always just excited to participate in that, and never really said no to a sport. So always just willing to have fun and try my best in those things. And that kind of just naturally transitioned into running a little bit. And I had a pretty good track career in junior high and high school, and did some track, and then stuck with soccer, played higher level basically until now. And then I kind of noticed, though, unfortunately, as you get older in team sports, they become a little bit less serious. And as somebody that loved always having a tournament to go to, or a big end of the year competition, when you get older, those just aren't something that really happens as much anymore. So I eventually kind of started seeing online, social media, all these different things about like people running marathons and half marathons. And then I kind of came across triathlon, and I had always been a good runner, but I also just kind of struggle a little bit, I think, with doing the same thing every day. And I saw the challenge of trying new sports, but then also getting to kind of make those beginner gains, I guess, where you see yourself getting better slowly, and that kind of motivates you to keep going. So I decided to try triathlon out, and now I'm really into triathlon to the point where I might actually give up on soccer, to be honest. Not give up on soccer, I guess, but transition just to be fully committed to triathlon. So yeah, I've been doing so much triathlon in the past 2 years, and it's brought that kind of joy that I had growing up as a kid back into sports, which is so exciting.
That's so exciting, Caleb. And tell us, what does this mean for you to train for triathlons then? Like, what does a training schedule look like? Because I'm afraid that's something that I've never ever considered in my own life.
Yeah, so that is the thing. It's one thing to say I want to do a triathlon, and then committing to the training is a whole other thing. And I fortunately have the time to be able to train for triathlon, and that means sacrificing those early mornings, and after work getting in those scheduled training sessions that you have, sometimes even at lunch. Right now, as I train for the longer endurance events, it can sometimes mean like an hour and a half to 2 hour swim in the morning before work, and then sometimes hour to 2 hour bike or run in the evening. And it's basically every day of the week, which sounds crazy. However, I think, as I mentioned, I just grew up always having a sport to go to, and that was something that I loved. And I really notice now that the biggest part of my self-care is kind of admiring and sorry, not admiring, but um, being accountable to that, I guess, and experiencing that every day, and making sure that I do have something to go to every day, something to look forward to, something to do. And yeah, it's a lot of early mornings and later training sessions, but I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to jump in one more, Michelle, because it's intriguing to me, Caleb. So whenever I hear other friends talking about preparing for triathlons, they have a date in mind when they're going to run their first one or prepare. So, and you just mentioned the longer endurance pieces. So, do you have a race in mind as you're preparing? Is that part of the structure that you offer yourself in terms of the training and the training schedule you set up?
For sure, yeah. So that's the kind of exciting thing, I guess, is signing up for a race is kind of when you take the leap and you start to schedule yourself and things like that. And that's something that I kind of made the decision towards around January last year is I decided, you know what, I'm going to sign up for my first Ironman and I'm going to go through everything that I have to go through to get to that goal. And I knew that it was going to be a lot and it was going to be a lot of training and I was going to learn so much along the way. But the truth is, like, it's taught me so much in so many areas of my life. And, like, even just learning how to schedule myself properly so that I can get in these training sessions and making these leaps and gains to be able to do this sport is giving me so much more like self-confidence in other areas of my life and knowing that I've always been athletic, yes, but now I know that I can just put that effort and work and thought into anything, which is so exciting and so liberating, which is amazing. And yeah, so last year around this time, I made the commitment to do Ironman Arizona. And I did. I completed that in October. That was my first one. And then I decided I wanted to do Ironman Texas. So that is coming up at the end of this next month. So April 26th is going to be Ironman Texas. So I'm really excited for that and honestly just really looking forward to it and just so excited. And then I was actually honored and blessed to win an entry to another one at the end of the year. I entered a contest and I'm going to Madison for Ironman Wisconsin in September. And that one is crazy because I've always wanted to go to Arizona. I've always wanted to check out that part of the states and go to Texas, but I wouldn't have picked Madison, Wisconsin. Nothing against Wisconsin, but it's not the flashy tourist destination like some of these other races. So I'm excited to go and see what Wisconsin has to offer at the end of there too. And like I'm just excited to have these goals and commit to them and to eventually get to the point too where I don't even need a goal to look forward to and I can just commit every day and still live my life and just continue to succeed. So yeah, I'm really excited and thanks for asking.
That's so cool. Um, so I was just thinking about you keep mentioning about this is a lifelong thing. You started this when you were a kid. Um, so I think what I'm wondering is like, do you have any advice or do you give advice to these students that you work with about participating in sport and what it means for their mental health and what it can mean for their like personal health? Or is that part of the programming you do, or is there mentorship that you do, I guess, for Indigenous kids?
Yeah, so of course, something I'm really blessed to have gotten the opportunity to work with this past year is the U School program here at the U of A and First People's House. We have a big partnership with them, and I get to see kids on their weekly tour of the university and everything that it means to come here. And I've kind of made it a really big mission of mine to get the students to see themselves here at the U of A. And I think I'm a really big advocate for making sure they experience athletic programs too, because that's something that a lot of kids are really passionate about. And as much as it's important to have that academic rigor and see that side of things, especially when people are growing up, sometimes maybe they just haven't figured out that portion of their life yet. And sports can be a really great direction to lead yourself into that discovery or to find out where kind of your skills are and learn self-discipline and things that come hand in hand with academics. So I really do advocate for sports and inspiring the kids that way. And I also really just think that giving kids as much of a pep talk as you can in ways of looking at things when they're hard and when things might not always go your way, just to keep pushing. Because the reality is that, you know, as much as we want to say sports are competitive and things like that, and you're competing against other people, like, I think one of the biggest things I've realized now that I'm older is that you're in your own race against yourself. And you can always convince yourself, oh, like they're better than me, or they have more than me in this way, or they're lucky, they're gifted, they're naturally good at this, or whatever. But if you completely take all that negative thinking out of the equation and you just think, how can I be better than me yesterday? How can I be the best version of me? And, also thinking too, like, a lot of younger kids don't have access to things. And, there's so much that you can do just with nothing around you if you really put your mind to it. And that's what's so exciting, like when I really started getting focused in junior high school and I really wanted to be a big athlete, like I always saw people online that, they had their own giant workout gym and all these cool things and coaches that really help them. And yeah, that's great. But then I realized, like, I don't have that, but what can I do in this moment to be what I want to be, or to get as good as I can get in my situation, right? And to me, that was sit-ups on the carpet in the basement. And like, that's the best that I had option to. And then I had the park in front of my house that I could run circles around. And I did that because I realized, like, as much as I can sit here and say, oh, I want that big gym, or I wish I had a track to run on like these people, like, you don't. And that's okay, because you're not them and you're not competing against them. You're trying to be better than the Kaylem yesterday. And this Kaylem today, she's going to take advantage of everything she does have, right? So that's the biggest thing I think to teach kids, is just to see that there's potential everywhere. And if you really want something, it doesn't matter what you have and what you don't have, or if you're not skilled at something. Like, if you just keep waking up every day and put yourself in that situation where you have to work at something, and you say, like, this is what we're doing now and this is what you're committed to, and you're gonna do it. And if not, we're just gonna keep trying again and again and again. You're eventually gonna surpass that point when you just started and it was super hard. And it might take a while, but when you do, that's going to be the best feeling ever. And that's when you kind of really grow and you learn to inspire yourself just through that hard work and adaptation, right? So that's really what I just encourage, is like, you're your own biggest competitor, and that's what matters, and you don't have to compare yourself to everyone.
Oh, that's so funny, because I was like, as you're speaking, I'm like getting inspired. I was like, oh, yeah, Kaylem was really good at this.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, when you're talking about this sport being so important to you and important to you, uh, what kind of challenges did you face as you were trying to um, kind of not just better yourself, but also just learn more of your craft, more not just to get better at soccer, but just to the sportsmanship or anything? Were there any challenges outside of yourself that came up, and how did you cope with that?
Oh yeah. Well, growing up, like, I guess I always kind of had anxiety. Like, I think I remember since I was, I think, grade two, honestly. I remember I was like just totally shaking one day and so anxious that I couldn't even think. And I was thinking to myself, like, does everyone feel like this? Like, do the other kids like worry as much as I do? And things like that. Like I've always kind of had that anxious part in me and that anxious feeling around me, and struggling with that growing up was hard because I always sought out people pleasing, I guess. I always tried to be the person that I thought other people wanted me to be. I was always trying to, maybe even copy other people that I thought if they saw I was like them, then they would like me more, want to be my friend. And I do have ADHD as well, so I was always like super loud or super like athletic and jumpy, and I always kind of struggled with female friends, I guess. Like I would become the brunt of the joke. Like I remember in elementary, they would, if I wanted to play house with them, I'd have to be the dog. And, I could never be the mom or the dad or the sister or the friend or anything. I had to be the dog, and the dog lives outside. Like just common like girl bullying that was too bad. And that's kind of where I found like more interest in sports, I guess, is I would then say like, well, fine, I don't want to be the dog on the floor anymore, but the boys are playing soccer and I'm going to work really hard so that maybe I score a goal and then they'll let me play soccer with them. And then from then on, I was just like every day I just wanted to go play sports with the boys, and it didn't matter. Like I started to be like, well, I don't care. I don't want to play those other games. I'll just go do sports all the time. And then junior high was hard too because I was always so obsessed with getting better and being the best. Um, However, a lot of people didn't like that, and I had like this nickname. They called me a try hard. Stop being such a try hard. Why are you trying to run the lap around the gym so fast? Or why are you always trying to be first or do the most of everything? And like I always like just kind of brushed it off, but it was hard because like we said, I always wanted people to like me and wanted to fit in. But I think what they didn't realize is, like I kind of talked about earlier, is I wasn't trying to beat everyone else. I was just trying to beat myself yesterday and to be best that I could be, because that was my area where I was feeling good, where I was feeling like, when you're succeeding in a sport or you score that basket, like it doesn't matter if no one wants to be your partner. It just matters that you got that basket in, right? So just kind of learning how to motivate myself but be by myself, I guess, growing up, and dealing with that kind of people just not liking when you're succeeding or when you're doing better. And I always took that to heart. And I think I did actually kind of go through a period for where I did start giving up, and I did start, just accepting like, oh, like maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe this isn't for me. And I started to kind of blend in and adapt to that. And I did really give up on that for a while and start to think that way. But only recently, since I kind of got back into sport and regained my confidence, have I now kind of at the point, I guess I keep joking, like my frontal lobe has finally developed, but now I'm at the point where I'm like, if you don't like that I do this in sports, or you don't want to see me run by you or whatever, like just realize like I'm not doing anything to you. I'm just trying to be my best, and that's what matters. And honestly, I don't care if you don't like me, like I don't care. I'm not trying to fit in anyone's box. I'm not trying to make myself look smaller, not try as hard at things just to get other people to like me. But for the longest time, I was always trying to do that. So now I finally can step away from that and just say that I'm competing against myself. I'm in my own race. So, yeah.
Oh, Caleb, that's so beautiful. I'm just imagining Caleb as that little person in human and junior high running around the field and in the gym and all of those pieces. And I want to take it back, like you introduced yourself, and in English, your name is Calm Wind. And then the work you do now at the University of Alberta in in your really important role. how do you interweave those experiences from who, Caleb as this person with all this experience, and now in the work that you do, supporting First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students? Love to have your insights on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence. Yeah, really, like, I think this kind of self-transformation that I've gone through is really making me a great person at giving pep talks. I would say, like, that is a lot of what our students need, and even I need a pep talk sometimes. I think everyone does, and a lot of university is very hard, and I am someone who kind of firsthand experienced that here at the U of A. And um, I mean, something I usually relate with a lot of our students with is you go into these classes and you're the only First Nations person or Métis or Inuit, and you feel like you stick out. And it's hard in a class of 200. And I also connect with them in a way that I'm the first person in my family to go to university, and same with a lot of these students, and you get that kind of feeling of imposter syndrome, and also that whole transition to university as well. You're in such a bigger pond now, right? So maybe you were the absolute valedictorian of your small school of 200 people, kind of like I grew up, and then you go into this bigger pond, and all of a sudden you're not getting straight A's anymore, and you're the only Native person in this whole room of people, and you start to feel like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Like maybe it's just me, and maybe I was really great then, but maybe I'm not good now, or maybe this is a place for these people but not for me. And that's something that I started to tell myself through university, is I was like, maybe I was just smart in high school, and I just, it's bigger here, it's harder. And then I started to limit myself, and then I started to make more excuses, and I wasn't applying myself the same as I was in high school, because I think I was in a different environment. And I see a lot of our students coming in like that too, and they think, oh, like all my whole family puts me on this big pedestal, right? And my community as well. And then I come here and I feel small, and I feel like I'm not succeeding. So then having that conversation with them and building them up and helping them build their self-esteem, and helping them realize that there's a lot of change and a lot of things that go into university that are so different from before, and you can't compare university to high school. And even just simply scheduling yourself is what I do with a lot of our students, because in high school your teacher makes your class schedule and your study schedule, but in university, that's your class schedule. Your study schedule is not on there. So if you just think of that as, I go to these classes and then I get a straight A, it's not how it works. Like there's a whole other um, dimension to those schedules, and learning that, because some students, their parents both went to university, or their sister did, and they're able to show them how to do all these things. And our students are missing that. And, some of us have learned it the hard way and maybe figured it out later on, but some people, that's their first kind of failure, is having that struggle in their first year, and then they beat themselves up about it, and they think maybe this isn't for me. But showing them, where are your strengths? How can we make this work for you? And building them up to not see themselves as something else, and kind of change their mindset back to, you are that person that everyone looked up to. And you do have that work ethic and drive that got you in the door. This isn't an accident that you're here. And these are all the things that we can do to change this around. And there's even people that I see that come in that are maybe wanting to be a doctor, but they're in second year and their GPA is just not what they wanted. And then telling them, like, this isn't the end of the road for you. Like, you could finish your whole undergrad degree, not have that GPA, and upgrade, and then still become a doctor. Like, so many kind of situations seem end the world, I guess, but it is hard because you're so by yourself. So I think that's why my position is so important, because I can be that cheerleader. I can be that person that still believes in you. And that's what I love doing. Like, I love triaging. I love saying, okay, well, let's figure this out. Like, if everything's really bad and you're really struggling, what four things can we work on? How can we change this? And how can we make you feel like you have this potential and succeed? Because I want to see more of our people succeed so bad. And I want us to be in every faculty, and I want us to be looking up to each other and feel like, we're not the only ones everywhere, and change our whole everything's going to change if we're in everything. And that's what's so exciting about your podcast, even, is just to see all the different people across the U of A and where they're making a difference and representing our people in their positions.
Yeah, that's what I love about our podcast as well, Caleb. And I don't know if you know how this came to be. Like, we started meeting during COVID through virtual teas, and then somebody came up with this idea. Why don't we have a podcast where we visit with one another? And we called it Presenting Our Presence because we wanted to be n- like recognize that we're here and we're doing this work. And so I just love that your role is also doing this really important work about figuring out like those times when we're in doubt, because many of us, like you might have seen Michelle and I nodding. We too were the first people in our first ones to go to university in our families, and to like our parents didn't know what that meant, and I think about that now. And then in the next generation, right, even because I had gone to university, I can now see there's even, oh my gosh, there are all of these other next generation family members that have been to university. And what did that mean? And, you know, so this is such important work that you're doing. And it's so beautiful that we have you there working alongside our our students to help them figure out this big place, because high school and university is very different. I used to be a high school teacher. I remember trying to explain the difference, but it was really hard when you're doing it from high school and not from, oh, you've started university. Look at how it's different. So thank you for this beautiful work that you're doing and the support that you're offering. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle just to jump in. I know we have other wonders.
Thanks, Florence. Yeah, thank you so much, Kaylem. It's so funny when you're talking about like your interests and the stuff that was important to you as a kid and how it might have been perceived from other people around you. There's this real strong like group mentality that we all have to be the same. And if you're not the same, then you're doing something wrong. And I remember going through that as well because I wanted to go to university. I wanted to move away from home. I liked, for me, I have a degree in theater. So again, that was also very uncommon that I liked to perform and I liked any opportunity that I had in high school to recite something or do plays in my very tiny school where we didn't have a theater program, but I wanted to like do something like that. I had to do it myself because it wasn't built in. And it was like I was being different. And that was odd for people, right? Like the fact that I wanted to leave the community and wanted to go to school. Like you want to keep going to school? Like that was odd to people. And yeah, so I understand what you're saying, where you're like, these are my peers, these are my friends, but they don't understand what I want, and we want different things, and that feels like you're the other, like that separates you somehow. Um, but then when I went to Augustana, which is where I graduated from, I met this whole group of people who were like me, who did see that like theater was fun and acting is fun. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here they are. Here are the people that like what I like. I didn't have you in my high school of 100 people. It's so different, right? So I guess what I'm leading towards is do you feel like you have that community now? Do you have a bit more of like this group that you connect with on that level? I still struggle with the being the solo Indigenous person in a space. In my office, I am the only Indigenous person, but that's what I love about this space and Florence's spaces is that I do get to connect with the Indigenous folks around campus. But that was my big thing going from high school to university was finding that group of people who like what I like. And I just wanted to ask if you had any experience like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a great question. Like, that's part of my role as well, I guess, is some of our students, they're in a faculty and they don't find people like them. So I try to be that friend through the process, that person who maybe isn't there right now, but that you can talk to about all these things. So that's another really great part of my job. And I am really lucky to be at First People's House surrounded by other really amazing women who are all doing amazing things every day. And we do really motivate each other. Even just like recently, we're all doing walks at lunch. That's our new thing. And we're just all getting our steps in. And we've all kind of grown so much just in this time in the last 2 years that I've been with them. And we all want to be better and grow into the best version of ourselves. So it's really liberating. I didn't have that particular group in my time in university, but now I do, and it's really amazing. And I'm really, really grateful to be surrounded by all these people. And I mean, even just at this podcast today, getting to spend time with you guys and at all the different events that I go to at the U of A, I'm always meeting new people, and that's the most exciting thing. And Michelle, you also mentioned a little bit about people maybe not always supporting you, because you stand out, because you're different. And I've kind of realized, like at this point in my journey, that being different and doing all these things that make you different sometimes leads towards like that point of self-acceptance and self-love where instead of maybe looking at other people being different and thinking, oh, they're so weird, or why are they doing that, or whatever. Now I'm just like so happy with my own self and my differences that I'm like, oh, that's cool that they love that. Like, that's awesome. Good for them. Right. And maybe these people that haven't had that self-love journey or haven't been able to find where their passions are. Maybe they're the people that are kind of closed off. Oh, that's weird. Oh, I don't like that. Right. But so that's kind of what I've noticed too. And like if that's how people are looking at you, then it's best to just wish the best for them and hope that they find that. But the people that really are living in their passions and having that opportunity to embrace things that they're good at is the most like liberating and exciting thing to see amongst your peers. So it's a really great environment for growth. And I'm so glad to hear that about the theater aspect. I really didn't know that about you. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is. And this is the beauty of visiting. We get to know each other a little bit better. I'm conscious that we are near to the end of our time together, Caleb, and I just want to honor and respect you and say thank you so much for being with us and for joining us on this episode of Presenting Our Presence. And I will turn it to Michelle, and then we'll return to you, Caleb, and you can leave us off with that whatever words you now wish to say to the audience and to tell um, about your experiences or life or words of wisdom, whatever you feel like doing as we wrap up. this episode of Presenting Our Presence. Michelle, thank you.
Thanks, Florence. Yes, thank you so much, Kaylem, for being with us today. It was such a privilege and an honor to get to know you a little bit better. I think you are in the right role for your type of personality. I think that inspiration and that leadership is really suited to what you're doing with students. So thank you so much for being in that role as well. And I wish you continued success and good luck in your next triathlon. Keep us updated. We'd love to know how that goes for you. And thank you again so much for being here. Hi.
Yes, thank you so much, Florence and Michelle, for having me. It was a great time on this podcast to chat with you guys. And I guess my end remarks would be just to anyone out there that hasn't quite found what their passion is, or even if you maybe had something when you were young that really made you feel like you were doing something special or made you feel good about yourself, to go back and revisit that and fall in love with something that maybe is difficult, that is a big process, and make those small gains and build your potential. Because once you kind of overcome that big challenge that maybe you've been afraid to pursue or take the leap on something that takes a lot of small steps and maybe sometimes really tedious small progress to get to the big end. Once you kind of overcome that, you really will see your potential. And I really just want all of our people to have that opportunity to see their full potential. So thank you guys again for having me, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Hi.
Thank you, Kaylem, for the inspiration and your wisdom.